All right. So for our next guest, we've got two great guests with us. Melissa, Camaree, can you hear us okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. We want to really appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day to come meet with us. High level, guys, just to recap, because I know it's been a long day so far. These two are both working at Goldman Sachs. Melissa's working in equity research as an analyst, and Camaree Thompson is working in investment management as an analyst. Camaree graduated here from Utah State with her master's in financial economics in 2019. She also did her undergrad here as well in finance and economics. And then Melissa graduated from her undergrad in economics here in 2018. And from what I understand, both of them have been with Goldman Sachs ever since. I'm not counting maybe some internships during the undergrads. Did I get that right for you two? Perfect.
Yep.
Well, I don't know how you guys want to tag team it, but I'm going to turn the time over to you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll kick it off and talk about investment research first, and then I'll let Camaree talk about investment management. So I'll just give you an overview of what equity research is and what I do on a day-to-day basis and what kind of made me interested in this space in the first place. So as an investment research analyst, the goal is to make buy, sell, or hold recommendations on stocks. And so we do a lot of fundamental research to get to that conclusion. We build company-specific models, and we think about the revenue drivers and earnings growth potential. And then we're also doing other research into potentially like demographic trends, what's going on in the industry, how do macroeconomic factors affect the space. And then we roll all of that up into an investment decision. And then we call clients who are typically portfolio managers at hedge funds, and we try to pitch the stock to them. So hopefully they add the stock to their portfolio if we're buy rated, or can ask us more questions about our view. And in addition to having these investment ideas, we also kind of become industry experts for a lot of our clients. So they'll call us and they'll say like, hey, like we just want like a high level overview of what's going on in the industry. So I work actually on the real estate desk. So I cover companies that own, mall properties, office, apartment, storage, single family rental. So there's a lot of variety, and they'll call us and, be like, hey, like what's going on with work from home? How will it affect demand for office space? Or sometimes they'll be really specific and be like, I was looking at the company the other day. I have a specific question about this line item on a cash flow statement. Can you help me understand it? And so there's a lot of opportunity for depth research and just a lot of analysis, which is really interesting. And typically the teams will focus on an industry or a subsector. So like I mentioned, I'm on the real estate team, but other teams at Goldman might include like the restaurants team, the apparel team, banks team, machinery, oil and gas. Basically any subsector you could think of, we're probably covering it and covering companies within that sector. So I really like it because my every single day is different. I could be working on a model, whether it's building it or updating it for a merger, or we want to update a data point. We have a new oil price forecast that we want to include, or maybe we're doing like a thematic piece. We're trying to look at like, the dividend coverage for all of the REITs that we cover, and are there any dividend risks that we should be potentially worried about or should be flagging to investors, or maybe even more high level than that, like looking at population and demographic data. Like somebody mentioned earlier, like are people moving to the suburbs? How will that affect the companies that own luxury apartments in downtown New York or downtown San Francisco? Can we quantify that yet? What do investors think? And then we usually write that up into a note and put that together with some data, and then we call clients about it. So I think it's a really interesting mix of qualitative and quantitative analysis. And we're also talking about our research in a lot of different ways. I really like that it's actionable and that we're calling clients on it, and we're also writing about it. So with that, I'll let Camaree talk more about investment management.
Thanks. So investment management is fairly similar. So it's split into a couple of different asset classes. So there's the fixed income team, the equities team, and the private asset team. So I work on the equities team. And within this team, it's split into two. So there's the research side and then the product management side. So the research side is what you think of when you think of like the typical investment job. So this is where the portfolio manager sits, and this is the person making the investment decision, which stocks to buy, which stocks to hold, sell, etc. And the goal of the portfolio managers are to, meet the investment objectives, whether that's to outperform the benchmark or generate a higher yield than the benchmark and so forth. So the portfolio managers are organized into different strategies. So there's like US growth, US value, emerging markets, or alternative assets. And so I sit on the alternative assets team. And so we cover real estate, infrastructure, and then also dividend focused funds. So like I said, so the equity team split into two. So that's the research side. And then parallel to that, on the other side is the product management side. So this is where I work. So we take everything the researchers have done and we make client deliverables. So that's pitch books, commentaries, anything that the client needs that we can help them. So we're sort of a liaison between the portfolio managers and the sales team. So we take everything that's happened with the fund and we turn it into something commercial, something that we can send to the client and explains why the fund performed the way it did, if we outperformed, and we highlight like the top contributors, detractors, whether that's on a stock level, sector level, region level. And then we say our outlook for the sector. So we utilize a lot of the global investment research that's just talking about, and we also look outside of Goldman and we see like what's going to affect the sectors going forward. So I really like my job because I think it's a really good place to start if you want to work in investments, because I get to see both sides. So I see the quantitative side when I'm working with the researchers and, they're building models, and I see like what assumptions they make and why they make those assumptions. And then I see also more like the qualitative side, how we raise funds, how we interact with sales, what clients are looking for, and more that fundraising process. And this job has really made me grow kind of creatively, which I wasn't expecting. So the portfolio manager will be like, hey, here's this new fund we're launching, like make a deck for it. And I just have to like build it from scratch. And I really like that because you really have to have a strong understanding of finance to be able to articulate it well. So I've just been learning a lot. I've only been here just over a year and I've really enjoyed it. So that about covers what I do. I think we can turn it over to questions for either of us.
Perfect. Anyone want to start us off? Go right ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for Camaree. What is your favorite part of your job and what does your typical day look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the favorite part of my job is that I'm learning every day. I think if you're in a job, especially at the beginning of your career, and you're not learning, you need a new job. So I have a lot of like recurring tasks that I'm getting better at and I'm getting good at, but then there are also new things like every day that I have to learn, and I have to like reach out to someone and be like, hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? So I really like that, and that it's challenging me and that I'm still learning and growing. And so my day to day, it looks pretty different. So I can have like a whole bunch of commentaries I have to write, or I could have a whole bunch of pitch books that I have to like go into PowerPoint, and edit things. Or I could be on client meetings all day and just like taking notes and seeing what the client did and what they're thinking about our strategy and what we could do better for them. So yeah, good question. Thank you.
I'm going to bounce that same question over now actually to Melissa. I'm curious what her thoughts are.
Yeah, I think my job also can vary day to day. But I think so our primary goal is to publish these notes and communicate it with clients. And so we're coming up with different things to do, different projects that we're working on week to week about what we think clients are interested in and how we can answer those questions and come up with data and be, unique and different from what other researchers on the street might be doing. So it kind of requires me to not only be thinking critically about what's going on with the stocks, what's going on with the news, but also kind of think one step ahead about, well, what are investors going to ask? How can we preempt that? How can we be interesting and engaging to them? And we can do that in a lot of different ways, whether it's by finding some unique set of data or, modeling something in a much more detailed way than we think other people might be doing. And so I really like that we can be kind of nuanced, but also in our conversations with investors, we can be like, hey, how are we doing? And you just kind of get that automatic feedback based on their conversations with them. And I think that that's really interesting that you're constantly learning from the clients and always getting that feedback. You always come away from the conversation learning something new.
Love it. Thank you. Other questions?
So I have a quick question for both Camaree and Melissa. If you were to go back to when you were a freshman in college, what were some things that you wish that you utilized more or took advantage of, during your years in college?
Yeah, I can start on that one. So I've loved school. I'm a giant nerd. So I was super into all my classes, but I think something that you would really benefit from is looking like outside of the business school and joining clubs out there, just like out beyond just traditional, like the finance and econ club, because working in finance, you have to have a really good understanding of the world. And the more well-rounded you are, the better you'll do wherever you go in your career. So that if I was to do it again, I just try and like look beyond finance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer. I spent a lot of time doing like in the political science and history department. And so I think I was able to come to this job with writing skills. That really helped. And I think that that really differentiated me. I think that Goldman's view generally is that you can be taught finance, but it's really harder to teach you like the soft skills about how to think critically, how to write, things like that. So I think if you can do things, whether it's through classes or internships that are exposing you to something new, but also are kind of teaching you those things that you can't just read on a Wikipedia page or an Investopedia page, that will really make you differentiated, I think, to an employer. Because I think at the end of the day, at least like I can teach you to Google this financial ratio, but I can't teach you to know when to use it or to know why you're using it or to be kind of creative or out of the box. So I'd agree with Camaree.
We got time for one more. Okay, I'll go ahead and ask it then. This is a broad question, and I'll have just one of you answer. I'll let you guys fight over it. Goldman Sachs is one of the highest recruiters here from Utah State. Apart from just the fact that it's a large firm and has high hiring numbers, because there's a lot of other firms that fit that description, why do you guys think that it's been such a good fit for Utah State graduates?
That's a good question. Do you want to take that, Camaree, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I could take a shot. I think it's a good fit for Utah State because we're kind of the underdogs. You know, we're not like a high profile school nationwide. So I think everyone in USU is willing to work harder and go the extra mile. And you can see that in a candidate when you're interviewing. I don't know, Melissa, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that you can't replace, somebody who knows how to work hard and has a strong work ethic. And I think that USU graduates have been able to demonstrate that in the past.
Perfect. Thank you both so much. Really appreciate you both taking the time to join us. Again, just like everyone else, guys, their contact information is in the chat. I'm sure they'd be more than willing to reach out and connect with any Utah State student or recent alumni. Thank you both. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right.